quiet, safe, friendly, welcoming environment for neighbors to interact with, that we all help each other, we all support each other. That's, comfort. That's what home means to me.
Homes RI is a coalition of organizations working to ensure that everyone has a safe, healthy, and affordable home. Hopefully, these interviews will bring insights to the need and work and highlight where housing intersects with other issues and opportunities.
Well, hello, my name is Angie Lovegrove. I am the Fair Housing Project Director for the Rhode Island Commission for Human Rights, which is located the office is located in downtown Providence.
Why did you decide to start working in housing? Like, what inspired you to do that?
You know, to be quite honest, it kind of happened. It wasn't something I was looking for, but I certainly, once I learned about the Rhode Island Commission for Human Rights and what it represents, I certainly wanted to be involved. I wanted in, you know. So how it happened was I had been a victim of housing discrimination, employment discrimination myself. As a young woman, I had gone through, and I didn't know about the Rhode Island Commission for Human Rights. So, I had to basically, so I'm terminated from jobs that I shouldn't have been terminated from, lost apartments, or was treated unfairly because of my protected class in housing situations. So just happened to be that I worked across the street from the Rhode Island Commission for Human Rights. And I met at the time, 1991, the executive director of the commission. He came over I was working at a temp agency as a customer service person, and he was looking for someone, a clerical person. And so because I'm bilingual as well, so I would tease him, hey, you ready to hire somebody bilingual to be an investigator yet? And so that's how it happened. So I wound up working for him. He did finally come over after about a year of me abusing him with that taunt. He did finally come over and said, come talk to me.
That's great.
His name is Gene Booth. He's a wonderful man. He had since retired, but it was because of him that I was able to go over, and I was able to work as a temp, as an investigator for a while, and then I was able to get hired. In 1992, I was hired as a permanent investigator, and then I was working in employment for a while, doing just employment discrimination. And the person that was responsible for the housing part of it became ill. So I just thought I'd help out while he was ill. He was in and out, he was ill. So I said, I want to help out while he's gone. And then unfortunately he passed away, and I wound up continuing to hold that responsibility, and it just grew from there.
That's awesome. That's a really good story. Like,
Yeah,
you like see your
it's
value and you
happenstance.
advocate for yourself and
Yeah, just
get in there.
happenstance,
Yeah.
and worked out. And once I found out about it, yeah, then I wanted in like badly. So I just tortured him until he finally. But
That's
then I
great.
had to make good. I had to learn.
Yeah.
I had to learn, right? All about fair housing, fair employment. I had to really learn. It was a hard skill to learn, but it's clearly it's going on 30 years, all worth it.
Wow. That's great. Um, so can you briefly define what fair housing is?
Fair housing is, well, it represents being able to live wherever one wants to live, that you qualify for, that if you can afford it, you should be able to live there. That's what fair housing is. Given the opportunity to be able to say, I want to rent from this apartment, I want to apply, I want, being able to live in whatever neighborhood, regardless of one's protected category, to be considered, to be able to apply. That's what fair housing opportunity means.
Yeah. I like that a lot because I think oftentimes we think of it as sort of like this negative legal structure thing as opposed
Yeah,
to like it's where you should have these opportunities as opposed to
right.
you should be
This is
restricted.
yeah,
Yeah.
no restriction. You should be able to just be able to go through the same process as anyone else to be considered for
Yeah.
that whatever housing you apply for, whether it's rental or purchase. Right. That's what fair housing means to me. And then in the terms and conditions, once you do obtain some kind of whatever that housing opportunity, if it's a rental specifically, to be able to be treated with the same thoughtful consideration as others in a different protected category in the terms and conditions of your housing. So that's also a reflection of what fair housing is.
That's great. And can you tell us a little bit about your role and what excites you about the work that you do?
So my role is, I wear multiple hats, right? So, but to summarize it, my role is to take in charges for complaints that are brought to the commission's attention by individuals in the public who believe they are victims of housing discrimination. It's my job to listen to their narrative and to connect the dots. Sometimes they don't always have use the right terminology. So I'm the professional, I'm the expert, right? So it's my job to connect the dots as I'm listening to their story. So in order to connect the dots to be able to accept their complaint, did the harm occur within the 1 year statute, right? Within their narrative. Are they identifying that this harm occurred because they are a member of a specific protected class? And have they been able to establish who the organization or individuals are that allegedly caused them this harm? So that's my job to listen to that, and if they meet all the criteria, to be able to draft up a charge um, for them based on their story, their words, and so I take in charges, and once that's taken in, then my next role is to also investigate the charge. So fortunately, there are other individuals at the commission, the Rhode Island Commission for Human Rights, that also investigate charges. So the number of cases that have come in us a lot higher than they were when I first started. So I'm able to assign some of those cases as well. But one of my roles is it continues to be also to investigate their allegations. So we don't advocate for the charging party, the person that brings in the charge. Our role is to get to the bottom of it to determine whether their allegations are accurate or not, and whether it was discrimination or if it was something different.
Interesting. So, is there often like a difficulty in identifying um, like, who the perpetrator is? Because, like, definitely, like, when looking at like who owns the property or like that type of thing can be actually difficult to parse who
Right.
is actually the person.
So how we so sometimes, right, so what we have to look for in determining how to draft that, we have to look, the commission, as the investigator, as the intake person, I have to find that person. So I can have a first name. They can tell me Tony is my landlord. Okay, so what I have to do is I have to look up the address on the tax assessor site and look for the owner of that property. If it's not Tony, if it's a corporation, then I have to list that corporation on the charge, right? But Tony still goes on it. So the corporation is the owner of record on the charge. And then Tony goes underneath that owner of record as the landlord. And if Tony doesn't, we don't have the last name for Tony, we use Tony LNU, last name unknown, for the moment, because then we could always amend it after we go forward into the investigation. And then Tony is listed only as a landlord, not the owner of record. And Tony may be, right? But he's listed as alias, Tony, last name unknown, alias landlord. So that's, so we find ways to get to the bottom of who the players are that need to be included, because the charging party may not always have all of that information. So it's our job, the commission, to make sure we have everything, including the property management company, if there is one. If they mention the property manager played a role, then it's our duty to find out who that is and put that information in the charge as well.
So, like, what are like kind of the common barriers that people face? Like they have like some like maybe abstract notion that they've been treated in an unfair way, and like what's the what are the sort of common barriers that somebody would face in sort of being able to resolve that problem?
Well, we often, if you mean some of the barriers that we encounter with individuals that come before us are language barriers, right? Disabilities, mental and physical. So sometimes individuals with mental disabilities are challenged with being able to explain their story, right? tell their story. And we have this tool sometimes, which is a sort of a formalized fact finding, which allows the parties to come together. Because in all fairness, you have to give the landlords an opportunity to give their side of the story. So as I said, we're not an advocate. So now you have the barriers are you have an individual who may be limited in their communication, not being able to probably read and write. So it's up to the commission to be able to at least assist in making sure that that information that they're trying to bring across is represented in a way so that the landlord can be able to fully defend, because if they're having a difficulty communicating, we need to help bring that story forward so that the landlord can defend themselves. So those are some of the barriers. Um, and then of course there's sometimes there's a crisis happening, and there is so it's a crisis happening at the time for these individuals. A lot of the individuals that come before us are low income. Um, and so that's a barrier, right? Because at any given point, there's something happening behind the scenes um, that they have to deal with. And then they're dealing with this situation, uh, whatever that fair housing complaint is. So there's that. So they come in very emotional because there's a lot going on. They already have a lot on their plate. So there's some multitude of barriers. So the commission tries, it is our job to, when it comes to, especially to housing, we understand that everything has to be done now. So it's important to investigate that matter as soon as possible. So we try to assist in that way. So it's better for the charging party, and it's also better for the landlord in both cases, so that we can move the matter forward. And we try very hard to resolve complaints so that it doesn't have to be dragged out. So the resolution is finding out what it is the charging party wants that can help bring this matter to a close rather than drag out a whole investigation. It doesn't have to be. We can help them settle it, but we need them to tell us what it is, because we're not allowed to suggest things to them. It's their case, the charging party. So they have to tell us what it is they want, and we have to present it to the respondents, to the landlords, the owners, and then together come together with in a way to try to, if they have to counter or whatever, there is a way to do that where the parties can walk away feeling like each side got something out of it, and the matter can be resolved that way.
Yeah, because I think it's Matthew Desmond quote where he was saying that like 40% of Americans don't even know that like families are a protected class. So like oftentimes stuff is just a knowledge gap, even on the landlord side, where
Right,
they don't even know that they're
right.
doing something wrong.
And then you have a lot of, I call them mom and pops that own their little rental properties, two or three, and may live somewhere else. And they've probably owned the property for many, many years, and maybe were never educated in fair housing, or they went through a fair housing education so many years ago that they forgot the rules. Then you have, it's my property. I get to run it the way I want. I don't care about what fair housing laws. It's my property. What do you mean I can't do that? I have to rent to I have to rent to black people. I don't want to rent to black people, you know. I want to rent to my own kind, you know. You have that. That happens. It's real. Uh, so yeah, so there's those kind of scenarios that you have to educate constantly. So that is another role for the commission. We also educate the public about fair housing. So we invite people to invite us wherever we can go, whether it's a small cafeteria setting, city hall, you know, a homeless shelter, wherever where we're invited, we go. If it's a weekend, if it's an evening, we go, because we understand the importance of being able to educate the public about fair housing. It's the only way they're going to learn. It's the only way one day they will be able to be able to. Well, I'm hoping one day we'll be able to eliminate the need to have to continue to investigate allegations of discrimination. In
Yeah,
my lifetime, I don't think that's going to happen, but we hope. One can hope.
yeah. Um, do you have a story of like actually working through one of these complaints? It doesn't have to be an actual person, but like,
Right. Actually, there's so many that touch my heart. You know, uh, you can't help but be at times feel a sense of emotion about some of the things that have come before us. that one particular one that goes to show you how, uh, well, I was so emotional about it that I did something a little different than most people do in my field of work. So what happened was I had a case where I had a young woman that with she had 3 children, and 2 of the children had behavioral issues. Long story short, she had filed a discrimination complaint based on familiar status and mental disability because people were complaining. She lost her housing because people around her, other tenants, were complaining about her children causing all types of disruption. I mean, one of the children almost created a fire in the laundry room. That ultimately got her evicted. But the matter was still an investigation even after she got evicted. So it had kind of dragged along, but finally, back and forth it went. We continued to try to. The complainant was seeking she was seeking just to get her housing back, to not be evicted. She was evicted. After she was evicted, she still wanted to see if she can get back into her housing because it was subsidized. She's low income. Long story short, now she's in a homeless shelter somewhere in another part of the state. And they reached out finally, the respondents, and decided they're going to give her sort of a last chance opportunity and give her another apartment because hers was gone. Right now, I have to find her because I lost track of her because she's homeless now. Fortunately, she had an emergency contact, which is why we asked people for emergency contact information. So she had an emergency contact person, her sister. So I, on a Saturday morning, drove to her sister's house because the phone number wasn't working. Drove to that address and found the sister. Fortunately, the sister was still living there. And I was able to locate the sister. And from the sister was able to tell me where that individual was in a homeless shelter, like another hour away. And through, uh, another ride, distance ride, we were able to get there and give her the good news that they had agreed to allow her to move back into that complex and give her a last chance opportunity. And that was about 6, 7 years ago, and she's still there.
Wow.
And that was and when I got to that place, she was actually living in an empty building with her kids. It broke my heart. It broke my heart, but I was also very excited that we were able to help bring this matter to some kind of a resolution and because it just broke. I get very emotional when I see children that are homeless over scenarios such as that. And I can't say for sure that the respondents were guilty of anything, to be quite honest, but it worked out. So the investigation was still going forward. So they weren't guilty of anything yet. They weren't found guilty of anything, but they came to terms and decided to help resolve it. So that's one of the most um, one of the biggest ones that I faced that was extremely emotional.
Wow.
There was another one that was Section 8 tenant that came that was about to lose her voucher, and she was at the commission, and she was with her child, and she was crying because she was at the end, and the voucher was about to expire, and it's during this time where landlords are saying no to Section 8 vouchers. So she's crying, the little girl's crying, and they're homeless. And so now they're going out the door, and I remember testifying before the legislators about that scenario, about how this Section 8 thing is becoming a really, an epidemic kind of situation. And so it was another one of those emotional things that I wondered where mother and child were going to go after they left the commission. It was winter, and the
Yeah.
sadness of whether they were going to be able to find a unit by the time that voucher expired, because she only had a week to go. So that was
Wow.
another one. It was very sad.
Well, this is probably a good time then to talk about the new SOI legislation.
Right. So the commission, along with Rhode Island Housing, there's a number of housing authority representatives, uh, um, fought very hard for many years to have source of income included as a protected class under Rhode Island fair housing laws. So they did finally, the Governor McKee, it finally was passed. I think it's not under source of income. It's, let me find, I wrote it down because they came up with a different term for it. I think I wrote it down. Oh, lawful source of income. So, and it's a protection for people who have VA benefits, Section 8 vouchers, any kind of government assistance to to be considered as an applicant for housing, and not because we found that a lot of people were being turned away, not even given an opportunity, not even, sorry about that, not even given an opportunity to be considered to even apply for housing because of the type of government assistance they are receiving. And so on April 15th, it's my understanding, I believe it was April 15th, Governor McKee signed it into law. The legislators finally approved the bill, passed the bill, and finally, after, I think we've been fighting for it for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I think the first
So
one was submitted about 5 years ago.
Extremely excited that we helped play a role in making that happen. Lots of testifying before the House and Senate in the late hours of the evening for many, many years. So yeah, so we're pretty happy about playing a role in that.
I feel like we've had this like big success of source of income. Like what's sort of the next step in like changing systems to make housing more equitable?
You know, the only way, I mean, education is the key to hopefully changing mindsets of people who are involved in, in housing, renting and selling housing, changing them, helping them to understand the importance of giving people opportunities and being fair in providing those kind of services to everyone. Because it doesn't mean that you have to bend the rules for anyone. It just means given the same opportunity as anybody else to apply. So being able to reinforce that through education, educating the public, educating the housing providers about, it's not about allowing someone in that's not qualified. Reinforcing that is the only way you're going to bring about change. You're just going to allow them to be able to apply, go through the same process as anybody else. And then you get to pick the person that you think is most qualified. So reinforcing that message, I think, will help bring about change.
Great.
Little by little. And coming up with laws such as this, because as we move forward, we find new things that we have to bring forward, and sometimes we have to tweak the law again and add amendments. So if that happens, then we fight again. We go back before the legislators and ask for another amendment. But it's all about educating the public. It really is, and making them understand no one's asking for a favor or a handout. All they're asking for is an opportunity, the same opportunity, equal opportunity as anyone else.
Awesome. So if you're just like random Rhode Islander on the street is scrolling through their phone and they find this video and they are like, oh, this is really interesting. How would I get involved in, like, what's something that I can do to take an action here? Like, what would you suggest for them?
So you can, a random Rhode Islander wants to get involved, and it sounds like it's an interesting opportunity for you, something you'd like to be more involved in. How about stand up when you see something? Report it. We have a website. It's www.richr.ri.gov. We have a housing, it's an email that you can go send me or whoever's involved in housing at that time. Send an email right to that individual informing them of what you witnessed. Help someone. As I said earlier, some people have difficulty reading and writing. We invite people to assist others in filing a discrimination complaint. We have questionnaires on that same site. There's how to file a complaint. Help someone fill that out and email it to us, fax it to us, be that person. And then listen to what's happening in the housing world. And if you feel strongly about whatever that topic is, play a role by coming before the House and Senate and testify. Take a stance on that way as well. So those are 3 ways. And then the last one is the commission has an internship. We welcome interns. So anyone who wants to be an intern at the commission, the state has an internship program you apply for with the state of Rhode Island to become an intern, and you let them know that you're hoping to be able to work at the Commission for Human Rights as an intern for whatever that period of time is. So those are all the different opportunities that are available for anyone who's interested in working or participating in this field.
That's great. Um, is there anything that we haven't covered that you think needs to be highlighted?
Um, no, I think, just being, I, as I said, I think it's important for people to have the strength to be able to stand up for others. When you see something, you hear something, I would ask that you report it and let us do the hard work. If you could just report it, we'll take it from there. So that's what I would highlight. Stand up and don't accept. Realtors don't have to accept what their clients are asking them to do. They can say, no, that's right. That's discriminatory. I'm not going to do that. Say that. Realtors can file complaints of discrimination themselves, if they feel that they've lost a job opportunity because they stood up for something like that. That's retaliation if they lost a client. So yeah, so those are the kind of things. Everyone can come before the commission and file a complaint of discrimination, and we'll assess whether or not we can take it in. But retaliation is a very strong charge. So anyone who feels they're a victim of retaliation in housing, contact, whether you're a realtor, whether you're a banker, whether you're a tenant or a potential homeowner. That is a very strong charge in itself. So sometimes that's the charge, retaliation for opposing unlawful housing practices. So I'll close on that.